Welcome back to the deep dive, where we dive deep into the stuff you send our way.
That's right. We take those long articles, books, whatever you throw at us.
And we pull out the good stuff, the real takeaways. And today we're looking at something,
Something pretty close to home for a lot of us, I'd say.
parenting. Specifically, how we as parents show our kids what confidence and competence look like.
Because it turns out, just telling them to be confident doesn't quite cut it.
No, not at all. You sent us some really fascinating research about this whole parenting by example thing.
And the big takeaway right off the bat is that our actions, every day, all day, they're the most powerful lessons our kids are ever going to get.
Way more than any lecture or carefully planned activity.
It's like a constant unspoken curriculum they're absorbing.
And we're talking about everything from the way we handle stress to how we react when things go wrong.
Exactly. So for anyone listening who's thinking, okay, I get it, actions speak louder than words, but what does that really mean in practice?
That's what we're here to unpack, to give you those aha moments and hopefully some practical stuff you can actually use.
So you can feel a little more confident in your own, well, confidence modeling.
Right. So where do we even begin with this? How do we start to understand this deep influence we have?
I think one of the most fundamental points is that we are wired to learn by imitation.
Okay, so like monkey see, monkey do.
In a way, yeah. The article talks about Konrad Lorenz and his work on imprinting in animals.
Right, those cute little ducklings following their mama wherever she goes.
Exactly. Now, obviously, human development is a little more complex than that.
Thank goodness.
But there is a clear parallel in how kids, especially in those early years, really look to their caregivers for cues.
On how to act, how to react to the world, all of that.
Exactly. It's almost like they're designed to mirror us, to pick up on those subtle signals we're sending out.
So this isn't just a suggestion, it's like built into us from the start.
Pretty much. And there's a ton of research to back this up, like Albert Bandura's social learning theory.
I've heard of that, but remind me.
He basically showed very clearly that kids learn by watching and then copying the people around them.
And in those early years, those people are mostly, well, us.
Exactly. So it's not just about what we tell them to do, it's about what they see us doing every single day.
Okay, so it's more about showing them how to be confident, not just telling them.
Right. And the thing is, they're picking up on everything, even those little things we might not even think about.
The article mentions some pretty powerful examples, like getting angry in traffic or being dismissive of our partner.
Yeah, and those seemingly small reactions, they can really stick with kids.
Because to them, it's not just a one-time thing, right?
It's like they're creating these scripts for life
Yeah.
based on what they see.
So if we're constantly yelling at other drivers, they might start to think that's how you're supposed to deal with frustration.
Exactly. And it's the same with how we treat our partners, talk about other people, all that. They're soaking it all up.
Okay, that's a pretty sobering thought. So it's not just the big intentional lessons, it's those tiny, almost unconscious things we do.
That's the thing. It's often those unconscious reactions that have the biggest impact.
Now, the article also dives into this fascinating connection between our physical state and our emotional state.
Yeah, it gets into the whole interplay of stress, the body, and what they call emotional conditioning.
Okay, break that down for me.
So basically, our bodies can learn to connect certain emotions, like anger or anxiety, with physical sensations.
Like a racing heart or feeling tense.
Exactly. And if the only time our heart rate really goes up is when we're stressed or in conflict, well, our nervous system starts to put two and two together.
It's like our body's learning a bad habit.
In a way, yeah. And this is where the polyvagal theory comes in.
I've heard that term thrown around, but honestly, I'm not sure I really get it.
It can be a bit complex, but basically it's a way of understanding how our autonomic nervous system, the part that controls all those automatic functions,
Breathing, heart rate, all that jazz.
right? It's constantly scanning our environment, trying to figure out if we're safe or in danger.
And so if we're always experiencing those physical signs of stress,
Like that racing heart, yeah.
our body starts to think, okay, this must mean something bad is happening.
It becomes the default reaction. But the cool thing is, we can actually retrain our bodies to respond differently.
Really? How do we do that?
The article talks about the power of intentional physical activity.
So, exercise. But how does that help with our emotional state?
Think about it this way. When we exercise, our heart rate goes up. We might get out of breath, but it's in a positive context, right?
Yeah, it's not because we're running from a tiger.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So by doing things like running, swimming, even weightlifting, we're basically teaching our bodies that a racing heart doesn't always equal danger.
It can also mean we're getting stronger, healthier, all of that.
And that, in turn, can make us less reactive to those physical sensations when we do experience stress.
So we're less likely to spiral into that fight or flight mode.
Exactly. And the really cool thing is that when our kids see us making exercise a priority, see us managing our stress in a healthy way, they're learning too.
It's like a double whammy of benefits.
Right. We're taking care of ourselves and modeling healthy behaviors for them at the same time.
So it's not just about us feeling better. It's about giving them the tools to manage their own emotions down the road.
Absolutely. Now, another fascinating piece of this whole puzzle is something called mirror neurons.
I've heard of those. They're like the brain cells that fire when we watch someone else do something.
You got it. It's almost like our brain is internally simulating the action we're seeing.
So if I'm watching someone play tennis, my brain is kind of playing tennis along with them.
In a way, yeah. And this is super relevant to parenting because, as the article points out, when a kid observes us doing something, their brain is responding as if they were doing it themselves.
That's wild. So if we're telling our kids to go outside and play while we're sitting on the couch, there's a disconnect happening in their brains.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Their brain is mirroring our inactivity, not the active play we're suggesting.
So leading by example isn't just a nice idea, it's literally how their brains are wired to learn.
And that's why that authenticity in our actions is so crucial. Because if our words and our deeds don't match up, it can erode trust and make our guidance less effective.
Because they're not just listening to our words, they're watching our every move.
Right. And the article gives some great examples of positive modeling in action, like taking walks in nature or showing genuine excitement for learning new things.
Things that honestly, a lot of us could probably do more of ourselves.
Absolutely. When we actively participate in those kinds of activities with our kids, whether it's exploring the outdoors, learning something new together, even just doing chores with a sense of presence,
It helps shape their brains in a positive way.
they start to associate those things with connection and positive feelings because they're experiencing them alongside us.
And their brains are mirroring that.
Exactly. And there's another really important aspect of modeling that the article brings up: seeking help when we need it.
Which can be tough, right? We often try to shield our kids from our own struggles.
I know, but it's so important for them to see that it's okay to not have all the answers, to ask for help when we're stuck,
Because it shows them that everyone struggles sometimes.
and that there's no shame in reaching out for support, whether it's asking a friend for advice, hiring a tutor, or seeing a therapist.
It normalizes the whole experience of needing help.
And it shows them how to be resilient, how to face challenges head on, instead of trying to pretend everything's perfect.
Which, let's be honest, it rarely is.
Exactly. So by modeling that vulnerability, that willingness to ask for help, we're actually teaching them a really crucial life skill.
Now, all of this ties into this concept of neuroplasticity, which I know we've talked about before, but can you remind me how it relates to all this?
Sure. Neuroplasticity is basically the brain's amazing ability to change and adapt throughout our lives.
So it's not like we're stuck with the brain we're born with?
Not at all. Our brains are constantly rewiring themselves based on our experiences, what we learn, the environment we're in.
So our kids' brains are being shaped by everything around them, including us.
Exactly. And that's why our actions are so powerful. The article uses this great analogy of moving to a colder climate.
Like Alaska or something.
Right. If you move somewhere cold, you're going to start wearing more layers.
Yeah.
Right. You adapt to the environment.
Makes sense.
It's the same with our brains. Yeah, our kids' brains. They're adapting to the environment we create. And a huge part of that environment is our behavior.
So if we want them to develop certain qualities, we need to embody those qualities ourselves.
If we want them to be kind, we have to show kindness. If we want them to be responsible, we have to be responsible.
It can't just be empty words.
Exactly. And it's not always easy.
Parenting is hard.
It is. And that's why the article also talks about the importance of self-compassion.
Because we're all going to mess up sometimes.
Of course, we're human. And beating ourselves up over every little mistake is only going to make things worse.
It's not good for us, and it's not good for our kids either.
Right. So self-compassion is about treating ourselves with the same kindness and understanding that we would offer a friend.
Giving ourselves a break, acknowledging that we're doing our best.
Exactly. And the more we practice self-compassion, the more present and patient we can be with our kids.
And the more we can model that healthy way of relating to ourselves.
Which is huge for their development.
Now, the article also touches on meditation, which I know is a hot topic these days, but a lot of people feel like they just can't meditate.
Totally understandable. It can seem intimidating or like you need to be some kind of Zen master to do it right.
But the article makes the point that even small amounts of meditation can have real benefits for the brain.
And again, this goes back to neuroplasticity. Like any skill, meditation is something we can get better at with practice.
So it's not about instantly achieving some blissful state.
It's about taking a few minutes each day to focus on our breath, to be present in the moment.
And even those small efforts can make a difference.
Exactly. And over time, those small efforts can lead to some pretty significant changes in the brain.
Like what?
Well, studies have shown that meditation can actually shrink the amygdala, which is the part of the brain associated with fear.
So we're less reactive to stress.
Exactly. And at the same time, it can strengthen the prefrontal cortex,
Yeah.
which is involved in planning, empathy, decision-making, all sorts of important stuff.
So it's not just about feeling calmer, it's about literally changing the way our brains work.
And the cool thing is that we don't have to sit in the lotus pose for hours on end to reap those benefits,
The article talks about how mindfulness can be incorporated into everyday activities.
like washing the dishes, taking a walk, even just paying attention to our breath while we're waiting in line.
So it's about finding those little moments throughout the day to bring ourselves back to the present.
Exactly. And when our kids see us doing that, see us being mindful and present, they're learning too.
They're picking up on those subtle cues.
And they might even start to try it themselves.
Now, as we wrap up our deep dive into this fascinating topic, the article leaves us with a piece of advice that's both simple and profound. Take care of each other.
It's such a beautiful reminder that at the end of the day, the most important thing is the connection we have with our loved ones.
It's about creating that supportive, loving environment where everyone can thrive.
And a big part of that is taking care of ourselves.
So we can be the best parents we can be.
Right. And so we can model that self-care for our kids as well.
So to bring it all together for you, our listener, we've really explored how much our actions matter, how they shape our kids in ways we might not even realize.
From mirroring those little everyday habits to modeling resilience, mindfulness, self-compassion, it's all part of the equation.
And ultimately, your example is the most powerful force in shaping the individuals they become.
Now, as a final thought, as you go about your day, try to pay attention to one small behavior, one reaction that you tend to repeat often.
Like getting frustrated in traffic or maybe snapping at your partner when you're stressed.
And ask yourself, what message might that be sending to your kids? And is there one small shift you could make, one tiny adjustment that would better reflect the qualities you hope to see in them?
It's not about being perfect. It's about that constant evolution.
Exactly. It's about growing alongside our kids, learning and adapting as we go.
And that, I think, is the most beautiful part of this whole journey.
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive. We'll see you next time.
See you then.